Hi, today we're going to go over lesson 12:4 over secants. So we're going to start with, we have two rules. Now, what's happening is we have angles that are either going to be where the vertex is either just randomly inside of the circle or it's going to be on the outside of the circle. Now, let's recap what we know. We know, now I would maybe write this down over here on the side of your paper. We know central angles where the vertex is at the center. And so if the angle is 90, the arc is also 90. Central vertex is at the center. The measures are the same. Now, when they're inscribed, the vertex is on the circle. And so you take the intercepted arc and you divide it by 2 to get the angle. The angle is always half of the arc. The angle is always smaller. Now, today we're going to take the vertex. Now, the vertex, again, is just randomly inside. You're going to take, now let me show you. Here's my vertex. I know it kind of looks like it's in the very center, but it's not. I'm going to take its angle, and its intercepted arc is this yellow area, the X. And then I have to consider its vertical angle because I know vertical angles are equal, correct? So then I need to think about its intercepted arc, which is where the Y is. So since it's inside the circle, I'm going to add those two measurements up and then divide by 2. Now, I know the equation here shows you're going to times by a half. I prefer dividing by 2. That's your own preference. Either way will work. So when I did this one, I want you to notice that the vertex is necessarily at the center, and I opened up the angles to find the intercepted arc. So my intercepted arcs are 71 and 65. So I'm just going to add those two numbers together and divide by 2 to get 68. So the 68 actually goes here and here both because they're vertical angles, and vertical angles are always equal. Now, this is a change. Whenever the vertex is outside of the angle or outside of the circle, the vertex is way out here. What you're going to do is you're going to find the two arcs that are intercept. There's always two, and you're going to subtract them now. Right here is a subtraction sign, so it is different than the one up above. And you're going to divide by 2. So it's kind of hard to remember. Are you going to add, divide by 2, or are you going to subtract and divide by 2? So I tried to come up with a silly way to make you memorize it. So if you've ever watched the movie Mean Girls, it's all about being within this group of friends. So pretend you are the vertex. So if you are this vertex here, are you inside that circle of friends? And you are. So you've been added to the group. So if you've been added to the group, you're going to add and divide by 2. Now, if you are, again, the vertex, here you are not in the circle of friends. So you've been cut. You've been subtracted from that group. So you are going to be subtracting and dividing by 2. And so I'm going to reference this. And over the years, it really has helped students know if you're going to add or subtract. So I know, again, this looks like it's at the center, but the answer is not 88. What you're going to do is you're going to open it up, and its intercepted arc is 88. And then its vertical angles over here, and its intercepted arc is 86. Add those together and divide by 2 to get 87. And that's just calculator work, adding and dividing by 2. For number 2, now notice the vertex is way out here now. You've been cut. You're outside the circle of friends. So you're no longer part of it. You've been subtracted. Now there are two intercepted arcs, 90 and 20. Make sure when you subtract, you always get a positive answer because your angle can't be negative. So take the bigger number, subtract the smaller number to get 70, and divide by 2 to get 35. Number 3, again, you're outside the group of friends, so you're subtracting. I take the big number, the big arc here, and subtract the smaller arc to get 90 over 2, which is 45 degrees. For number 4, now this one's tricky, so I'm just going to erase a bunch of this and start over. We know circles are 360 degrees. And I also know this blue area is 60 because it tells you, right? So I need to find this red area. So I'm going to take 360. That's a 6, even though it didn't look like it. 360 minus 60 divided by 2. Now, let's back up. Let me just do all my work again. If I know a circle is 360 degrees, I can subtract the blue part here to figure out how much this red part really is. Okay, so that's the first step. Then I have to say, how do I figure out X? Well, I'm outside the group of friends, so I'm going to subtract my two numbers and then divide by 2 because that's the formula. When it's outside, you subtract and divide. So I get 240 over 2, which is 120. Number 5, we're going to skip. For number 6, okay, so I know this angle here is 90. Now, the little tiny arc, it's so tiny, you can't really do the arc and the angle the same. The little tiny arc right here, that is 6 degrees. I know this angle here is 90. So this big arc minus this tiny arc over 2 is going to equal 90 degrees. Okay, let's re-go over this. I'm taking the big arc. This little tiny arc way down here was 6, so I subtract because my vertex is outside of the group of friends. Out here is my vertex, and then I divide by 2. So I have to use algebra to solve for x. So I'm going to times both sides by 2. X minus 6 equals 180, and then add 6 over, so I get 186, and that is x, the arc. Okay, am I going to add or subtract? The vertex inside, you've been added to the group of friends, so you're going to add and then divide by 2. So I get 136 over 2. So 136 divided by 2 is 68 degrees, and that's x. Now this next one is super tricky. Whenever I add, now my vertex is inside, so I'm going to add and divide by 2. It's going to give me those two angles, which neither is really what x is. So we'll get there. We need to find this blue angle first. So since I'm inside the group of friends, I'm going to add and divide by 2. So that's 48 over 2, which is 24. So those are both 24. Now, here's what you need to notice. This is a straight line. We know straight lines have 180 degrees. So it doesn't matter if you go across the top or the bottom, but we know like these two angles together equal 180. Or these two angles together equal 180. Correct? So if both of those together are 180, I could subtract 24 from 180 and be left with x. So x is 180 minus 24, which I believe is 156. If I did my mental math correctly. Okay, so problems like this, I'm going to give you. Okay, so we can do this one. My intercepted arc is 162, and this arc right here is G. So we have enough information So let's subtract our two arcs. 162 minus G. And I am subtracting since I'm outside the group. I divide by 2, and this equals 38. So let's times both sides by 2. 38 times 2 is 78. Now, if I subtract 162 from both sides, I'm going to end up with a negative number, but that's okay. I end up with, and I'm running out of space as well, negative G is a negative 86. But I know a rule. If I divide by negative 1 on both sides, it all turns positive. So G is 86. All right, moment of truth. Are you ready or are you subtracting? You're inside the group. So hopefully you're saying you're adding. So 72 plus 148 is 220. And if I divide, I get 110 for my x. And we have this grossing one. Let me get my bearings here. Okay, so lots of stuff is going on this picture. Okay, so I see I have an inscribed angle here. So that means this angle here is half of 70, so it is 35 degrees. Now, this 30, if I open up this red angle, it's going to be half of 30, so this red angle is 15. Now, I can find this little angle here, which happens to be vertical angles with x. So 35 and 15 together, 35 plus 15 is, I believe, 50. And triangles equal 180. So there's a big triangle here. 180 minus 50 is 130 degrees. And this is x. Okay. Now, let's see what else we can do. I know. Let's see if, I don't know. Is this the last one? It is the last one. Okay. Okay, so I'm just thinking out loud. So I can get this angle, and I know that is 50. I know that one is 50. So can I get this arc? Now this arc here, it's not 130 because this is a secant angle. So I would have to take this angle and all right, guys, I'll figure this one out and teach it during class. But that is it for notes. You should know it all. Now, when you go to do your homework, let me just warn you, it does go back to do some old things. It's going to start you with when the vertex is inside. So you're adding, dividing by 2. Then it does old stuff when the vertex is on the circles. Here you just divide by 2. So like half of 220 is 110. And then it goes to outside. So when you're outside the group of friends, this is where you subtract and then divide by 2. So just to warn you. And I will work on this one and I will have it ready for class. All right. Thanks for watching. Bye.